I've always considered myself generally productive. I feel like that's a pretty accurate description of most people. When I have things to do by a certain time, I usually get them done. But something inside me this past year has changed dramatically. Okay, let me explain. Here's a visualizer. On the left, I'll show you what my day used to look like. And on the right, here's what my day looks like now. Now, my morning routine has been pretty consistent and not much has changed. What's interesting though is how my productivity, specifically how much work I want to get done, actually manifests itself once I begin my workday. If you take a look at the total number of tasks accomplished from then to now, we can see now that my routine has me completing a considerable more number of tasks, and thus I've increased my so-called productivity. There's a simple answer to the seemingly complex question of how to increase your productivity throughout the workday, and that answer for me has been the magnificent, sophisticated, and underappreciated checklist.
Now, the reason why I started to buy these checklists are twofold. The first reason is pretty simple. I'm just a forgetful person. So by having one of these, this really helps me remember everything I need to do throughout the day. And the second is a bit deeper. When you write things down and when you have them visually out of your head and onto a physical medium like a checklist, it allows you to really focus in on and identify which tasks are most important, and it really increases your productivity. So the way that I actually put these to use is I don't write down everything that's going on in my mind directly onto the checklist. I don't do a brain dump. I do that separately in a journal, in my notes app, on my phone. But in terms of the actual checklist, I actually only really keep this next to my computer on my desk. Let me explain.
So I go through this weird phase at the beginning of every year where I change my lock screen on my phone to reflect whatever goal or motto I have for the year. And last year I changed it to the saying that I really like, and it goes, am I being productive or just active? For a long period of time, I found myself going through days where I seemed super busy, super active in doing a bunch of different things, but I never found myself at the end of the day feeling extremely productive, especially looking at the tasks that I want to accomplish, the projects that I was working on. I didn't feel like I was getting a lot done, even though I seemed super busy. And it was this weird thing where I couldn't really pinpoint what the problem was. I tried a bunch of different things, specifically like apps or different methods, different techniques. I tried the Pomodoro technique. Nothing really stuck until I picked up one of these. These are the checklist notepads from a company called Muji. Muji is a really popular lifestyle and stationery brand in Japan, and I think they've expanded globally. I think they have a bunch of stores in the US, maybe Europe. And they sell these 40-sheet, 14-point checklists at their stores for 150 yen, tax included. And that comes out to roughly $1. Now, by any means, you do not have to buy this particular checklist from this company. You can use any checklist that works for you. I just happen to have this store close by me. I found that since I started using these checklists, my productivity has skyrocketed, and the stuff that I'm able to get accomplished throughout each day is exponentially more than before, when I used to not write anything down and not have anything tangible in front of me on my desk every day. Okay, so specifically, how do I go about utilizing this day to day, and what is my exact method for using these checklists, and how does this pertain to everybody who's watching this? So the key that I've found to utilizing checklists is that you don't write down every single task that you need to accomplish throughout the day on the checklist. These are great because they only have 14 slots. So at max, you can only have 14 tasks to accomplish, but I don't even do that many every day. Typically, what I'll do is I have a separate notebook where I just give all of my ideas out onto paper. I'll do sort of a brain dump where I have a calendar as well as just an area where I can go ahead and write down certain ideas. And every so often, I'll just write down all of the tasks related to a goal or a project that I'm working on at that time. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I'll do is I'll open one of these. I'll write down the date of whatever day it is, and then I'll figure out, after doing a bit of thinking, what are my 3 to 5 main tasks for that day? There's a few different ways that I do this, but specifically, I think the easiest way to remember how to figure out what tasks are important to you, I like to think of it in terms of importance and also urgency. Let me just look back at all the ones that I've saved just over the past few weeks. Typically, I try to just keep the tasks from 3 to 5 major ones each day. And not only that, I'll try to put sort of timestamps or by when I want to complete each task by. And this serves the main purpose of when you sit down and think about at the beginning of your day, what are the most important things to do? What are your important goals? What do you need to achieve? It really helps you narrow down what it is that's important for you throughout the day. And this doesn't necessarily have to be specifically just work related. Maybe you really need to go ahead and purchase some things for your home. Or maybe you really need to go ahead and finish that edit by 6 p.m. to send to a client. There's certain things that you know deep down that you have to do that day. And by writing them down and having them sitting like just in eyes view, just like at a hand's reach throughout your day as you're working at your desk, this has been incredibly helpful for me, particularly in figuring out what is important for me, what are the tasks I need to accomplish, and also keeping me accountable in completing these tasks by the end of the day. After I finish a task, I make sure to check it off. Obviously, that's the most fulfilling, most satisfactory part of this whole process is when you're checking off something, you're like, yes, I've finally finished it. And don't be afraid to also like add little notes as you complete tasks. I like to like write little things down, little notes of what perhaps I need to change on certain things, or little notes for tomorrow's checklist. And at the end of the day, go ahead, sit down, finish your last check, and really celebrate that feeling of being accomplished. You set out and you set up these goals and you were able to finish them. By the end of the day, you're able to complete them. And that gives me a sense of accomplishment, a sense of euphoria, a sense of just purpose in my day-to-day routine. Because sometimes when you're sitting down at your desk, you find yourself scrolling aimlessly. You find yourself looking for things that you don't necessarily need to be doing. You and I both know that sometimes it's very difficult to keep productive and keep focus on your tasks. So when you have somebody or something written down staring at you throughout the day, that's pretty helpful in keeping you focused and keeping you aligned with what you need to get done. Since I started using these checklists and keeping my checked tasks between, 3 to 5 major tasks and maybe 1 or 2 minor tasks a day, I've actually noticed myself being extremely more productive, being able to accomplish the goals that I set out to at the beginning of each month and the beginning of each year. In particular, this method was extremely crucial in me being able to finish my online course, which is available in the link description. But in all seriousness, that course took a long time, took a lot of focus, and being able to partition out what I needed to accomplish each day with regards to that project, and not even just that project, but when you're working on projects, perhaps you're freelance and you're working on client projects, perhaps you're part of a company and you have specific tasks or specific goals that you need to reach. This method is, to be honest, it's pretty foolproof. It just helps you align and figure out what you can accomplish throughout the day. And for the most part, I don't think you can really accomplish more than 5 major tasks a day. When I say major, like not just time consuming, but pretty mentally draining things to do. I kid you not, this was probably the best $1 I spent in the last year, the most productive $1 I spent, and probably the most important $1 that I've spent over the past year with regards to my personal and professional work. I appreciate you guys watching to the very end, and Muji, if you're watching, hit your boy up. I'll see you guys in the next one.